Speaking of divisions, by the way, and issues and feuding and what have you, the other thing I'll mention real quickly is this latest beef, if you will, between Carmine Appice and now Nikki Sixx. And what this all stems from, as I believe you guys are well aware, is that Carmine Appice said that he spoke with Mick Mars, who he is close with ever since Carmine was in Ozzy's band and Motley Crue opened, and that Mick expressed unhappiness as one of the reasons why he left Motley Crue, and one of the reasons for his unhappiness was the band's very prominent use of pre-recorded tracks and material, which again, Motley Crue has been transparent about for a very long time. And as I mentioned before, Motley Crue, Mick Mars, again, it's right there on TV if you want to go pull it and see it. 10 years ago, he volunteered his unhappiness about that on that metal show. We didn't even ask him about it. He just said it, that he was really unhappy with the fact that so much was pre-recorded and what was going on at that time. Anyway, Nikki, without mentioning Carmine by name, took an obvious shot back at Carmine, calling him a washed-up drummer, what have you. So now Carmine has escalated this to the point where he is basically issuing a challenge, because he had said that, like, you know, yeah, you can call me a washed-up drummer if you want, but at least I actually play my instrument. By the way, in case people aren't following, I know Carmine's thing has made a lot of news, but there's others that have said this about Motley Crue, including Stephen Pearcy, both live on stage recently at concerts and in press. So, you know, again, I don't know how many times I got to tell you guys, this is becoming an epidemic, and there are people besides me that are bothered by live rock shows not being live, especially musicians who still play live. Where this is at now is... Okay, so I'm reading this from Loudwire at the moment, and... Okay, so let me read this. This is from Loudwire. This is what Carmine said. In Ultimate Guitar, Appice was asked his thoughts on Mick Mars' retirement from Motley. The drummer relayed that Mars had told him he was not happy on last year's stadium tour, alleging Crue were heavily using backing tracks. Basically, quote, basically everything was on tape. The truth is that everything has been weird for a while with Motley, and Mick didn't like that everything was on tape. Mick told me that people that came to see it could tell that it was all pre-recorded and that everything was on tape. All right, so that goes on and on. As I've said to you guys a billion times, until fans start caring about this, no band's ever going to stop doing it. But it's funny when bands that do it, whether openly or not, get called out on it, they get defensive. I mean, every musician knows, and some fans know, so why be defensive if you're okay with doing it? Okay, so Nikki Sixx responds via Twitter, quote, love how people talk for us without talking to us. This is why the media has lost credibility. Typical shots at news media, and inferring that Ultimate Guitar never reached out for comment on Appice's claims. It's worth noting that last summer, when video surfaced showing Crue using a drum backing track as Tommy Lee missed a cymbal count in, Loudwire was told by Motley Crue's representatives that the band was not fielding media requests when a comment on that matter was sought. So what that's about is, it's not that Tommy Lee wasn't playing drums. There was a drum count in and a drum sound when Tommy wasn't at the kit. Because when you use tracks and everything's on a computer, there's count-ins. And if you're not in position for the count-in in your ear, you're not there to do the part. So what Loudwire's saying is they have asked, and the band won't comment on it, you know, and Nikki has been critical of most media, and he clickbait and all of that stuff. But again, that's the world we're in now. So he does his talking through Twitter. He continues by saying, obviously, by printing BS, they made money off of advertising, and we're not into that clickbait game. As Six tweet, an attack of news media continued. You can see what's happening here. Loudwire, and I'm just reading this for the first time, Loudwire, which is a respected online news publication or news outlet, is not digging Nikki's constant shots at the media, which they are, of course, part of. That's coming through in this article as I'm reading it. When the truth comes out, it will be from us, he wrapped up, never denying what Appice said. And the band has not further commented on what the quote-unquote truth is regarding these allegations. This is interesting. So this is Loudwire turning, as I'm reading this through, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but as I'm reading this through, the media is turning a little bit here, which is not good because of these shots of what Nikki's saying. Okay, so they post Nikki's tweet that says, a washed-up drummer trying to speak for us, a bottom-feeder media running with it to make money off of lies. Welcome to the sad new world of look at me, look at me. Up next for us, a stadium tour in Europe, Australia, Japan. So that's, to me, and I'm just looking at this as an outsider right now, to me, what a lot of this is about is the Mick Mars angle. Because, again, I don't know how anyone could be... Nikki Sixx has spoken out publicly on more than one occasion about the band's embracing and use of electronics and tracks in Motley shows for years. If you like it, go enjoy it. If you don't, don't. But the one thing you can say is they've been transparent about it. Most bands are not. Not saying it makes it right. You know how I feel. But I'm saying this isn't, so he can't say it's lies when they admit they've been doing it, right? But I think the problem here is that the Mick Mars angle, like there could very well have been some agreement with Mick Mars if what Carmine said is true, that Mick cannot talk about this stuff and it can't come public. And now Carmine being a messenger for Mick is where the problem is. That's where I think he's making the assessment of lies. I don't think it's about the use of tracks, because how can you say that's a lie when you admit that you do it? So I think this is more about the circumstances of Mick's departure and the vibe with Mick more than his thoughts are and comments are about the track thing. Carmine fires back. At least this washed-up drummer can play his instrument and has pioneered heavy rock drumming and can educate others around the world on his instrument. Some musicians have jumped into Carmine's defense, Derek Sherinian being one. Carmine, you are an American treasure. We love you. Here it is, Rat singer Stephen Pearcy backing up Carmine. We got this. Again, yeah, so here's Pearcy going at Nikki Sixx. And again, Pearcy has on more than one occasion called out Motley Crue for doing this. And now Carmine is challenging Nikki Sixx to a playoff of some sort. Oh, man. This is just... where does this go from here? I have no idea. I'm just scrolling through it now because it's... so Carmine basically is saying that, all right, let's get together and play, and he see who's washed up and who can play. In a nutshell, I'm paraphrasing, but throw down in a jam off of some sort. I don't know how that would work. I don't think that would work. I don't see that happening at all. What's going to happen first this week in rock drama? Where do we go first? Will there be a Nikki Sixx Carmine Appice jam off, or will Paul Stanley apologize Taste Freely for calling the band Piss with him in it? I mean, it's insane. It's all insane. Why is it going to be so hard? Plug in, play your instruments, let the chips fall where they may. That's all it takes. People would kill to have these careers. Oh, gosh. Anyway, I'm sure more to be determined. But yeah, there's definitely a sentiment, and I know this for a fact, that you can't, and I run into this all the time, you cannot control what media picks up from interviews. Literally every day, this radio show has stuff sourced from it that makes the news around the world on various websites. I can't control what a certain website is going to cherry pick from an interview and transcribe and put out there. You know, whether it's Loudwire, whether it's Blabbermouth, whatever. And it just takes one to do it, and then it all just goes like fire. And then it's a thing for 24 hours, and then 24 hours later, everybody's on to something else. But I can't control that, and the artist can't control it. Nobody can control it. The problem, where you get into a little bit of a problem is, and this is where, you know, media, quote unquote media, is a very loose word right now, because it used to be media was somebody that had to have a real affiliation, meaning work for a media company, whether it's a TV outlet, a radio outlet, a print outlet. Just like the music industry has changed dramatically, where you don't need a record label anymore and anybody can put shit out. In the quote unquote media, anyone can put shit out and claim to be media. I got a YouTube channel, I got a Twitter feed. So you really have to vet out what is responsible real media, and is just not somebody out there pumping shit out looking to get clicks. That's where the clickbait aspect comes into it. That's where I understand what Nikki's talking about, but you cannot put everybody in the same bucket. You know, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I spent 40 years in this. I have a real affiliation. You know, I've got a real audience. I've got a real reach. I'm very proud of that. Can't put me in the same bucket as somebody who's 20 and started a YouTube channel, and that's their quote unquote media affiliation. They've got 4 people listening. They're dying to make some sort of news to get somebody to pick it up, so that these outlets pick it up and it says Jimmy's Rock Show, and then you're all of a sudden like, well, I got to find out what Jimmy's Rock Show is. Let me go search it. They're looking for that. Their whole existence is based on getting that validation and that attention. So that is where I agree with Nikki, where that part of the media thing is absolutely a problem. But you can't lump everybody into that bucket.